All right, I see us on Facebook.
All right. That's good to hear. Mm. Yeah, I might have this posted onto my channel on maybe like either Saturday or Sunday. Not sure yet, but yeah.
All right, yeah, well, you guys are live, so I'm gonna clock out here, but I'll keep an eye on. If you guys need anything, let me know.
All
Have a
right, that's awesome.
have a good session.
Thanks, man. All right, I'm gonna soon get started in just a bit. Just making sure things are going good. Libertarian Party of North Carolina. Okay. You know what? I think this is probably the best we're gonna get. I'm just gonna record it on my end. And all right, we're gonna get started in 3, 2, 1. Hey, what's going on, everyone? James Numbers here, and welcome back to another episode / live stream, depending on where you're watching this, of the Political Freedom Firefighters podcast. Last week, I actually did a part one to this Rage Against the War Machine, which was more of a discussion panel, which aims to try to involve which basically was the aim of that was to basically try to initiate some discussions on how we can reignite the anti-war movement and address the problems within our foreign policy. This episode right here is the part 2, our second crew, I may add. And with that being said, I want to hand this over to Maud now, and Maud, take it away.
Thanks, James. I'm excited to be here. You guys are going to enjoy this show. We've got 4 great panelists. So what we're going to do is I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves a couple minutes, just highlight some of the key things they've done in their life. And then we're going to dig right in. I'm going to raise some topics and let everybody give their 2 cents worth, and hopefully it'll be a lively discussion. I'll start out really quick. My name is Maud Abu-Ghazala. I'm a patent attorney and small business owner, and I've been an anti-war activist pretty much my whole life. I ran for U.S. Congress in 2002 to try to keep us out of Iraq, which didn't work. So I had to run again in 2004 to get us out of it, out of that war. And then I just kept all my campaign material, and now I'm using it again to keep us out of this war with Iran. So I'm running in North Carolina's 7th District for the U.S. House. All right, so let's go real quick and clockwise. Ryan, do you want to go ahead and give us a quick intro?
I would love to, Maud. Thank you. Pleasure to meet you, and happy to be here. Thanks, James, for putting it together. My name is Ryan Rabah. I'm an attorney also here in North Carolina. I've spent a number of years in the independent and third-party movement. I'm a founder and executive director of something called Our House. It's a PAC dedicated to supporting independent candidates specifically. I serve on the board of Better Governance Institute, which is a 501c3 focused on practical solutions for more accountable government. In 2024, I was the North Carolina state director for the Kennedy campaign. And I helped found and co-chair the We the People Party of North Carolina, where I also served as counsel in our ballot access litigation in 24, which was a lot of fun. Today, I work with independent and reform-minded candidates, helping them run better campaigns outside the two-party system. And generally, the lens I bring to this is, our 2 major parties seem to fight about everything under the sun when the camera is on, and all these cultural war issues that have us arguing about. But the one thing they don't seem more aligned on is the fact that they want to keep us at war and keep this war machine funded. And, it's important to ask why, and having talks like this goes a long way. And I think the answer will probably mostly agree is follow the money, and that'll take us there. So pleasure to be here, and look forward to it.
Kalia?
Thank you so very much, Matt. And thank you, James, for the invite. Thank you for everybody being here. And hello to everybody that is watching. My name is Kalia J. Fitzgerald. I am a daughter of the Carolinas, since I did grow up in both of the Carolinas. And I have been a longtime political advocate, and just since 2016 have I gone to the Green Party, where I have found a great political home. I'm currently managing Michael Dublin's campaign, and he is running for U.S. Senate here in North Carolina. I am also the co-chair of the Black Caucus of the North Carolina Green Party, as well as the co-chair of the Green Party U.S. on the steering committee. I currently serve on a lot of different committees on the national and state side as well. And some of the things that I do include going to rallies, protests. I also have a weekly YouTube show called Green Party Tea on Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We talk about the things that are happening with the Green Party. We amplify candidates and things of that nature. And most of whatever I do centers on effective communication. So as you can see, being here with a bunch of different people from different parties, we have to effectively communicate to let people understand that third parties are not the big bad wolf that everybody makes them out to be. And that includes shared learning and having new voices. So I do appreciate being here. Appreciate everyone for coming, and I will pass it back.
All right, Steve.
Yeah, I'm a physician, a dermatologist, and I lead a health services research center where we're trying to improve the care of patients with skin diseases. And I'm rated among the top experts in the world on psoriasis, dermatology, and treatment adherence. And this career path of mine has given me opportunities to meet people in many different fields, doctors in other specialties, patient advocates, insurers, drug companies, people in other countries, even lawyers and politicians. And everywhere I went, I've met good people trying to make the world better. The American Academy of Dermatology gave me one of their top awards, an opportunity to speak on those experiences. I'm the author of a recent novel called Bent Towards Justice, also based on those experiences. And I'm an amateur magician and libertarian candidate for the U.S. House in North Carolina's 10th Congressional District. And I'm here to promote civility, peace, and fiscal responsibility.
Thanks. All right, Shannon, close us out.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon Bray. Thanks for having me. I'm currently the Libertarian candidate for the U.S. Senate. I've been on the Libertarian bandwagon now since probably 2012, 2016. I'm an anti-war combat veteran, served in the United States Navy. Most of that was underwater. But really since Trump furloughed me back in, I think in 2016, I've been a political activist who actually went out and looked to make political changes at the actual voting booth. Other than that, I really just kind of look to bring an anti-war movement, and with all of the things that we have going on with the Russia, Ukraine, and all of these other wars, it gets very confusing. And even the UK is saying they can't afford it. And if they can't afford wars, we can't afford somebody else's wars. I'm just out here trying to put an extra voice out there, trying to say, hey, let's not fund these endless wars. Let's try to find solutions, and let's move forward peacefully. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate being here.
All right, thanks, everyone. So let's dive in. And I'm sure you're all chomping at the bit to complain about this war that Trump's and Israel has dragged us into. Before we get to that, though, I want to start with the bigger question. It's like, okay, what do you guys think? And I'd like to start, we'll do this in reverse order. So we'll start with Shannon. It's like, when do you think, obviously you're against this war, when do you think it's a good idea? When do you think it's right to go to war? What circumstances do you think would make it okay to go to war?
Well, I fully support the defense of America. Like, if we are under attack, I'm all about taking care of whatever we got to defend ourselves. And I'm also, protective of democracy in a way. But everything needs to go through Congress. We can't be having things that just escalate through executive powers and the power of the pen and blank checks for wars that we shouldn't be in. So everything is case by case, but we should not be siding on blank checks and just giving everything to Israel or any of the other wars. I mean, I support Ukraine, right? I think the Russia thing is bad, but that doesn't mean that I want my entire paycheck funding the defense of Ukraine, right? Because when we have our own issues at home, we have our own debt. We're very much like the UK. We can't afford this either. And every action that we have is just putting us deeper and deeper in debt to where my children have to pay for wars they didn't even vote for. Well, none of us voted for. But that's where we're at.
Yeah, let me just try to narrow this in a little bit. So you're saying that basically your initial answer was self-defense, is that war is justified for self-defense. We had a panelist on last week or a couple weeks ago, and they were saying, well, this war is justified, believe it or not. He said it was justified because we also have the right to protect our foreign interests. Because he was saying, well, Iran has been attacking us, so we have the right to attack back. And I pointed out Iran has never attacked us. They've attacked our soldiers on their doorstep. They've never attacked the U.S. So would you make that distinction? Would you say self-defense does not mean defending our interests, foreign interests? It strictly means defending America proper. Would you say that?
I would go as far as I'm not sure what he said that we were being attacked. I don't know who the us was in that. So it could have been more of a personal thing. It could have been more of a religious thing. I don't know. I don't feel like the U.S. has been attacked. And so, no, I do not.
I think he was talking about our soldiers that are fighting in Iraq. And
our soldiers should not be there.
Yeah, that's the obvious answer. Is one way to not get them killed is, you can attack back or you can just pull them out. So
right, yeah, I believe in pulling them out. Yes.
Yeah. So you're answering my question that to you self-defense is very limited. It's defense of your body, the American people, not our interests, our property overseas. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, I believe our everything else should be negotiated, but not under war. We shouldn't be expanding or no, you summed it up perfectly. That's exactly where I'm at.
Self-defense strictly in America, not our empire overseas. Steve, give that a shot. Morally wise, when is it okay to go to war?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Shannon says, but I want to not answer the question even more directly by saying we shouldn't be in a position to be in a war. We shouldn't be doing things that make people want to attack us. Before 9/11, I've discussed this with many of my students who just don't even realize that the sanctions the United States imposed on Iraq were reported to have killed 500,000 children. Our leaders told us they hate us for our freedom. Mm-hmm. You can check out Madeleine Albright on 60 Minutes talking about how when asked, we've heard 500,000 children have died because of these sanctions. Is it worth it? She answered, well, we think it's a hard choice, but we think the price is worth it. I mean, that's the best way to stop war is not to do stuff like that.
Yeah, what was the question? What was worth it? So we kill 500,000 Iraqis. What was the upside to that?
What was the upside to that? Yeah.
What was the question?
Leslie Stahl asked Madeleine Albright, we've heard that 500,000 children have died. That's more children than died in Hiroshima. And is the price worth it? And Madeleine Albright said, yeah.
I guess the price of oil is worth killing 500,000. I don't know what you.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff because we're addicted to oil. And another one of the things we did was in the 1950s, we installed a dictator in Iran, overthrew the democratically elected prime minister, installed a
Most of it.
dictator, supported the dictator and his secret police for 25 years. And then we got upset when they threw our dictator out and took some hostages. I think we should be friends with the Persian people. They had a charter of human rights 1,500 years before the Magna Carta. This idea, what should we do when we're attacked? We shouldn't be attacked. We should be the bastion of freedom that we say we are. And we shouldn't be doing bad things in this world.
Yeah, about the history, that's something people need to know. That it's like, how do we invade people supporting this war in Iran? And again, going back to last week's, the guy was saying, well, you know, they keep chanting death to America. I said, do you think it has something to do with the fact that, like you pointed out, that we overthrew their government in 1953? And you know, his response was, well, that's your opinion. He's like, no, that's history, dude. that's what. That is not my opinion. That we installed a dictator. As you pointed out, it was a brutal dictator. Their secret police was famous for torture. They tortured and we installed them. And what's funny, just to wrap that up, was we're sitting here thinking we're going to get his son. We're going to install his son back into Iran, and they're going to accept that. It's so delusional, but that's what you can get away with when people don't know their history. If they don't know that we tried that and it was a horrible failure. Okay, so I'm just trying to get everybody's concise response. Self-defense. Do you think that's a good criteria for going to war? And not putting you're adding, so you're basically saying that plus don't make it so that we are the targets. Don't give reasons for people to attack us. That's what you were adding to that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, you know, dermatology has been very good to me. I've been to Iran a couple times now. You hear, I never heard death to America while I was there. Now there's 90 million people there, 365 days a year, not saying death to America. In our newspapers, the only thing you ever hear about is death to America. You're not getting a representative picture.
You know what I do hear, Steve, is we're going to end Iranian civilization. I heard that. I didn't hear the other side of it, but you're right.
Or John McCain singing "Bomb, bomb, 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 Iran."
Yeah, that was funny. In a cringy sort of way. Yeah. All right. So thanks, Steve. Kalia, what do you got for the moral reason that would justify going to war?
I cannot think of many reasons that we would go to war. Absolutely. You know, Green Party, we're all about nonviolence and peace. And just looking at it in my lifetime, I don't even think that we've had a war that we've gone to and fought that had any significant meaning to it. Like, they were choices. They were things that just continue to help establish empire. They were things that, like you were saying earlier, wars of profit from oil and things of that nature. However, they didn't do much as far as getting us any further. If we look at what happened in Iraq, what happened after we left, it just went back to how it was in a shorter amount of time. So
Afghanistan, the Taliban are back, so we got absolutely nothing.
Yes, so we're not gaining anything. So all the lives that we lost were literally for what? And we're looking at these things happen in front of us day by day. And it's not like it was 50 years ago where we didn't have this on TV or in our palms. We have this right here. So we can actually see the cost of war live now. And knowing what that cost is, why would we think that there is a reason to go to war? A war is a failure of diplomacy, and we have elected officials to be able to be diplomatic. So we, the people, have to step up and say the people that we are electing need to be diplomatic enough to keep us out of these wars. And if they're not, they need to be replaced.
So, yeah, which party is that?
Which party is that?
Which of the Union Party, the two parties in power, which party is the one that says we don't want to go to war?
Neither, because they both profit from the war machine. They both profit from being able to get these corporate-backed donors to line their pockets and help them stay in office. So one might say they don't want to go to war, but they don't do anything to stop it. And the other one, you know, they profits are profits, I suppose.
Same boss.
Yeah, basically.
All right, Ryan, your shot at the moral reasons for justifying war.
Sure, thank you. So, easy to say that, yeah, I agree. Certainly they have the same bosses. I don't think that's wrong. I think most of our military action has a monetary origin. That being said, maybe I'm going to be a little bit of the devil's advocate on this one, on this round of the discussion. So, like, for example, I think earlier we were talking about is Iran a threat to America? I think smart people that care about humans and care about peace and don't want war can make an argument that the government in Iran could be a danger to Americans. I'm not making the argument, but I'm saying that argument can be made. I'm open to discussing it. I'm open to finding out, saying, okay, what is the reasons that you think that? Let's have the transparency. And more to Shannon's point, let's have the process, right? Whatever we do is supposed to be done through the founder's design, right? Congress declares war, right? We know the president's had the war power resolution. He's got 60 days to get in and do what he wants to do. And at that point, it's up to Congress. Clearly, that has not been done, right? So I don't think we're told the truth. I don't think that everything is being transparent, but I don't deal in absolutes either, right? I'm not a pacifist. Is there a fact pattern that I would be willing to be an aggressor? Yeah, there is. What exactly is it? I don't know. Self-defense is an easy one. But, I think Churchill called World War II like an unnecessary war. If maybe France would have been a little bit more aggressive, we could have saved 50 million lives. You want to put some sort of, algorithm up that's going to show me that, well, I'm going to want to save the most lives, even if that means being an aggressor on the front end. And I would caveat all of that with another high bar, which for me, like, I'm not going to be comfortable sending anybody to war or going to a war that I'm not willing to fight myself or send my kid to fight, right? So that's a really, really high bar, right? But it exists. There are, situations that I could put together in a hypothetical that I'm saying, me and my daughter, strap up, we're going out here, because that's going to be more important to, the earth and the most humans. So I guess that's where I land.
You're talking about a Bone Spur leader, fearless leader, who opted out of joining the military.
Who are you talking about? I'm sorry?
Trump. He opted out because he had a bone spur.
Oh, was I talking about Trump? In which respect?
No, I'm just kidding. Oh. I'm just kidding. The fact that these politicians are willing to throw people into the war, but they don't go, or their children don't go.
I envisioned Ryan's statement more like Red Dawn with him and his daughter, right? And he was like, "I got my girl. I'm not sending you by yourself." That's how I took that.
I think it's certainly something that should be thought about. I mean, you can't be callous with human lives. You can't be callous with American lives in particular. We're American citizens. And, I don't think that seems to come up in the calculation very often. It's few and far between that politicians that even talk about that.
Well, let me dovetail off of what you said, which is justifying I assume you're talking about a preemptive war, right? Because we seem to all agree that if somebody attacks us, we obviously have the right to defend ourselves. I think we're on board with that. And it's just how limited is us. And I think we've also seemed to agree that us means Americans in America, not us, our military in Iraq. But so if you're talking about a preemptive war, one of the biggest justifications for a preemptive war is nuclear proliferation. That if you allow Iran to have nuclear weapons, they're going to use them, and that's a threat to us. So I want to dig into that because, I mean, you seem to think that is a good reason. It's sort of like a pre-crime, right? That Iran hasn't done anything illegal, but we think they might do something illegal. Meanwhile, we're funding somebody who we know is doing something illegal, which is Israel. Their weapons are illegal. They claim they don't have nuclear weapons. So how do you square that circle? How do you square the circle of us assigning actions to people that they haven't committed yet? It's like we don't want Iran to have a bomb by force, not by diplomacy. So it's one thing to say we don't even want Iran to have a bomb, so we're going to use diplomacy. I'll let you respond to that, Ryan. We want to use diplomacy so Iran doesn't have a nuclear bomb. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about we think Iran might get a bomb, even though they claim they don't. So we're going to attack them and destroy their nuclear capabilities so that it's not too late. I want to address that question. Preemptive war based on pre-crime. Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question, but just let me, jump back to the beginning of your question. You said that I had given that as a reason. I didn't. I said there are fact patterns in which I would be willing to be the aggressor. I didn't cite Iran's nuclear capabilities as
so it's
one.
my idea. So I'm throwing out there Iran nuclear weapons might preventing Iran from getting nuclear weapons. Would that be a good reason?
Yeah, I mean, I think just generally, you talk about nuclear proliferation, proliferation. It's terrible, right? It's easy to be a slogan. Yeah, that's bad. Like anything else, I think the devil's in the details. One, I just start out with I feel like a giant hypocrite whenever this discussion comes up, right? I mean, I can remember being a child in the Cold War. I can remember, lining up under the desk and in the hallways because, we might potentially be bombed. And I remember thinking how many people did these crazy Russians kill that we have to do all this? And it turns out 0. And I was like, all right, well, then certainly there's the rogue nations, or who's the terrorists that have killed a bunch of people with these weapons? 0.
Well,
who has killed anyone?
Yeah.
Us. Well, holy shit. What? That's, that's hard for me to get around, right? So, we killed 200,000, innocent people. I think it's terrible. I hate nuclear weapons, right? Now, is there a scenario where a fact pattern is going to be brought to Congress to show that here's where, and not it's every 2 weeks, that we're being told they're about to, have enriched uranium. And I want to see it brought to Congress through a process. And if Congress says this has reached the point that I think we need to be the aggressor, if they do get these weapons that we do believe they are this close, or we're going to do this, whatever the deal is.
So you think we have the right to do that? You think we have the right to forcibly prevent people from having bombs that we have and Israel has?
Right's a hard word. I don't.
Well, we're going to invade them and kill their people. So
I don't think I would say right. Again, I don't know what they're going to, what the plan is going to be. I want to know what the plan is, and I want to know if.
No, I know, but I think I'm trying to ask a simpler question.
The simpler question is, I don't think anybody should have nuclear weapons. I think it is super hypocritical.
I don't either. But do we
tell people that they can't have them?
But is it our role to kill people to prevent others from having nuclear weapons? And we have them, and our ally Israel has them. So I mean, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just trying to clarify. It sounds to me like you're thinking, yeah, we can bomb people to prevent them from having nuclear bombs. That's a principle under the right circumstances, that you are okay with bombing somebody to prevent them from having the bombs that we have and our allies have.
Yeah, if I was relatively certain that a country had a nuclear weapon and that the next day they were going to use that nuclear weapon and bomb 10 of the biggest cities in the world, and that fact pattern, I would say bomb that facility.
Well, yeah, we're nowhere near that. We're right now, mullahs are crazy.
But you're talking about something specific, a specific thing that's happening now. I'm just saying there is a fact pattern in general that would meet the criteria. No, okay. I'm not prepared to bomb anyone. I don't even know that we're being told the truth. I don't know what's happening. I don't think the process is being followed. I want all of the things to be done the right way. And I will say this, and this is, I'm not I am an independent through and through. The only politician that I can remember ever talking about nuclear de-escalating, getting rid of nuclear weapons was Trump. Yeah, I was shocked. This was maybe it was in 2016, maybe. But he's the only one I said, for me, that's what I want. Why don't we all come together and say, let's get rid of these things, right? Well, we all have thousands of these bombs. We have enough to blow up the world.
Are you aware that Iran proposed a long time ago to completely dismantle all their nuclear program entirely if Israel did as well? Would you support that? Because the only reason Israel can do what they're doing is because the U.S. supports them. So we can tell Israel, hey, you want our support, you got to get rid of your bombs, because Iran already said they're going to destroy all their weapons. Would you be okay with that, or do you not trust Iran and you do trust Israel more?
No, I don't. I wouldn't say I particularly trust either one of them to get rid of the weapons.
Okay.
All
right. So I don't want to drill too much on you. I got to give everybody else a chance. Khalil, you've been waiting patiently. What do you got? The issue started out with proliferation of nuclear weapons. Is that a good reason to go preemptively to go to war? Wait, I think you're muted.
Is that I'm on
You're
now?
good. You're
All
good.
right. So if you look at what Israel has done versus the reactionary course of Iran, I would think that people would have the justification to say that Israel should definitely not have any type of nuclear weapon because they do not do anything that has any common sense towards their people, nor the lives of the other people in other countries. And they also don't comply to treaties when we're trying to stop people from getting taken out. I'm trying to say these in the best way possible. But, when we look at that, we look at the reaction of Iran versus the just pro war hawk style of Israel to just take out everything everywhere, have greater Israel established. We know what's going on. Who would you rather trust with a nuclear weapon? Not based on any type of philosophies or anything else, but based on attack style, based on what you see, based on how people are being treated. I definitely would not give a key to any facility to Israel ever in my life. And when you also think about the fact that they did not sign the nuclear non-proliferation treaty, so they can, if they decide to, go ahead and have these nuclear weapons, which we say they might have, and I'm pretty sure we all know that they do. And this is another reason why the U.S. has not gotten out of that war, because they're like, if it does come up that there is some nukes over there, what are we going to say after all these billions of dollars that we have given to them over the years and in the course of this quote unquote conflict or war, whatever they want to call it. So no, I don't see how we can look at these states and say, okay, I'm going to bomb here because of what they're doing. They shouldn't have it in the first place.
Yeah, the question is, let's say somebody's about to get a nuclear bomb. Should we prevent them, physically prevent them? Not diplomatically. We all agree diplomatically we should. But physically, if they say, hey, we're a week away from getting a bomb, do we have the right to bomb them to prevent that?
Yes, I understand the question. And the thing about it is, have we been doing that thus far?
Well, that's what, let me ask Ryan that, is if based on your principle, and I've given you a chance to talk, probably not giving other people a chance, but just like a really quick answer. You're talking about Iran on the verge. Netanyahu's been saying Iran's 2 weeks away from a nuclear bomb since 1970. So they're almost there, just 2 more weeks. What if Israel, you had information that Israel is going to use a bomb? Would you support bombing Israel based on your principle? Yes or no? You don't even get to explain. Sorry.
That was to Ryan.
I reject that the way you framed it, that I can't explain. So I just want to make sure we're not conflating things here. Like, I started with answering a question: is there any hypothetical where I would be willing to be the aggressor? That yes. That involves knowing or feeling at a high probability that the country that's going to have the weapon, whatever the country is, the next week is going to go out and
right. I just want to make sure that the principle was not based on who the subject was. So if that country happened to be Israel,
if anybody, I thought we had good data that they were going to go out and kill 100 million people in a nuclear holocaust and give us a nuclear winter, I think I would hit the button.
All right.
That's going to be, I don't know how we're going to get that proof, and we're going to get enough evidence to make that happen. But
I'm afraid it's coming. I don't think we're that far
now.
If
you're saying, do I believe which this was never the question, do I believe right now we should nuke Iran, or go in and start blowing it? No, I'm not ready to do that. I've never said that. I'm just saying there's a process for it. I don't know that there isn't a scenario where I do think military action would be warranted. Let's go through the process and find out.
Yeah, I just always getting at was I just want to make sure it was a principle and not based on the players, that you have subjective interest one way or the other. Your principle goes across the board. You would be okay bombing Israel if you thought they were about to drop a bomb on Tehran.
The Swiss as well.
All right. There you go.
Okay. Well, so the way that I'm looking at it, when we're talking about the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, North Korea even signed on to it at one point in time, and then they backed out of it. but it took them years before they even tested. So do we wait until they start testing? Because that's the only way to 100% for sure know that this is what's going on. Otherwise, we are just speculating, because they can let us into facilities that have nothing to do with what they're actually doing.
Mhm.
So that's one of those things that we have to take a look at. Did they sign on to this treaty in the first place? Because if they didn't sign on to the treaty, how are we saying that they're against doing something if they never signed on to it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I just want to throw in there is the concept that, yeah, nobody wants Iran to have a nuclear bomb, but you don't get everything you want in life. You know, it's like, I don't want anybody to have bombs, but if they get a bomb, live with it, deal with it. That's my take on it. You can't bomb schoolgirls. Ryan, I do want to get back to you, but you know, I really got to give everybody a chance here.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Shannon, you're fidgeting a little bit. You got something to say?
Well, I'm one of the few people in the world who've actually been able to spoon a nuclear missile. I used to live on an SSBN submarine and sleep between these missile tubes. There we call them deterrents, right? We are up every country's butt, right, ready to shoot these missiles anytime we feel like it. And the life expectancy of a submarine is about 3 minutes after you launch a missile, because everyone has short range missiles. That none of that matters, though. I don't believe we should be dictating to other countries what they can and can't do as long as they're behaving themselves. It's very much like our Constitution, the Fourth Amendment. You know, we have spies, they have spies, we're all keeping track of that, but are we the minority report to where we are just assuming that people are going to misbehave with weapons? They're trying to protect themselves from us, right? They're like, the U.S. has them, Israel has them, we have to have them if we are going to compete. That is true. The negative thing about the missiles, though, is they're not like the bunker busters, right? A bunker buster can come in, ring the doorbell, put a missile right on target, and actually satisfy an objective. Nuclear weapons are not. They kill everything. They kill people, I mean, they will shut down that area of the planet for 10 years. That is a completely different level of destruction.
All right, Steve, are you on board with treating this like the Minority Report, where it's based on what you do rather than what you think or we think you might do? Where's your stance on that?
Yeah, I think people want nuclear weapons, as Shannon said, to protect themselves, as a deterrent. And I think we encourage them to want those nuclear weapons by threatening them, especially if we threaten them with nukes ourselves. And it's not just, you know, the overthrow of the prime minister of Iran. We supported Saddam Hussein with satellite intelligence, where to put the weapons of mass destruction, the gas, mustard gas, sarin. You can read about the mustard gas injuries that were caused in the dermatology literature. And you mentioned, you know, the crazy mullahs. You know, I grew up in a religious Orthodox Jewish background with rabbis who are very religious people. I know very religious Christians. I know very religious Muslims. All of their religions teach peace. I'm not convinced that these mullahs don't care about their people. You have universal health care in Iran, not in the United States, but in Iran, they managed to achieve that. Literacy rates since the overthrow of our dictator have dramatically improved for women in Iran. We shouldn't be talking about trying to bomb them to prevent them from having nuclear weapons. We should remove the sanctions. We should trade with them. We should be best friends with them. That would be the way to stop them from having nuclear weapons.
All right, I think we've Ryan, did you have an urgent thing you need to
I just wanted to add one thing. You know, I started talking about, you know, the hypocrisy of us having them, which I think would probably everyone would sign off. I think there's an additional hypocrisy that we're talking about now, is that we try to police everyone that they can't get them. No, and they know when they have them, they will be treated differently, right? Mm-hmm. They have leverage on the world stage in a completely different way. So it is a different way of oppressing them. You know, it's not about them being a bad actor necessarily always, you know, or if that's, you know, whatever the propaganda is. It's the fact that they're never going to be able to negotiate on an even playing field if they don't have the same weapons. So
I mean, that's what I think Iran was doing. Is people are saying, well, why they don't have the capacity to have nuclear bombs right away, but they're this close, and they want to stay that close for the reason you said is like, don't push us, because if we want to, we could get nuclear bombs. We just at this moment don't want to, so don't push it. Kalia, did you want to say something, or do you want to move on to the next? All right, let's move on to the next thing, the next topic. It's U.S. as a world-class seller, pusher of weapons. Should the U.S. be in the business of selling bombs or weapons around the world? Let's go with Steve first.
Yeah, I'm pretty much a free market kind of person who believes that.
Well, so based on that, before you get started, let me rephrase that to say, should the U.S. government be in the business, the actual business of selling weapons? Go ahead.
I think we would be better off using our resources to defend our borders and go to war against malaria, go to war against homelessness, go to war against potholes in our country. That would be a better use of our resources. I know one of the other candidates in my district says the world is on fire. We have to go kill people because we love peace so much. And I'm like, I know he loves peace. I know he wants peace for his kids as much as any of us do. But I don't think we're going to stop the world being on fire by spending hundreds of billions, if not trillions, on more weapons.
By putting logs on the fire. That's how we create peace. That's how we put the fire out. So your answer is the U.S. government should build bombs for its own use, but not sell it on the open market. Is that correct?
I actually believe in what is it? You turn the swords into plowshares. Yeah, I think we should be focused on being a great role model, building our own infrastructure instead of trying to influence people through military action.
All right, Kalia?
So as far as selling weapons, absolutely. The United States should never sell weapons to anybody. We are partly the reason why so much is going on in countries just like Sudan and Congo, where weapons are being traded and they are destabilizing countries. So we should not be involved in any arms sales to foreign nations or anyone at any point in time. Just like we were saying before, Iran has universal health care. When we look at what's going on with the World Cup, 48 of those countries have universal health care, and the host, the United States, the one country, does not. So like Steve was saying, just to piggyback off of that, we can use that money to do the things that we are giving other countries, not just universal health care, but universal education, free education, just up to, even if you want to get your doctorate, I mean, you could have it if we weren't selling so much in weapons, if we didn't have such a big military budget. We can have other things that we really, really need in this country, and we don't. We can actually put that into renewable energy, even if it is nuclear energy, so we can go ahead and tie down our nuclear weapons and put them to better use, put those facilities to better use so we can have renewable energy. That's where I think we should go with that. Okay,
let me play the devil's advocate, and by here I literally mean the devil. Israel will argue that, this is in your own interest, is that when the U.S. gives us $3 billion a year, we're obligated to spend those $3 billion on U.S. weapons. So basically, you're getting your money back, and you get this freebie of Israel protecting the world from terrorism for free. But the fallacy in that, and this is something libertarians will point out, is that's a transfer of wealth from the working class to the military-industrial complex. It's not just the U.S. It's not just money from the U.S. to the U.S. It's money from working class people to Israel to do God knows what with their money, comes back to the military-industrial complex, which is not me and you, right? The military-industrial complex is the billionaire class and the shareholders of all these corporations. So that argument that this is a business that's profitable ignores the fact that the money, it's only profitable for the rich people. It's not profitable. It's costly to the working class who pay the taxes. And it's just a distribution of wealth to the military industrial complex. Anybody want to take that up somewhere? You want to follow up? Go ahead.
Well, when I hear stuff like that, I say tell that to the soldiers that were on the USS Liberty, because they were under fire by Israel. And that was anything but friendly fire. If you have anybody that was actually there tell you anything about it, what has Israel really done for us in terms of safety that they have not also done to us in terms of harm? We are just coming to find out how much they've been spying on us, even though we should have known this for decades, for however long. We should have been aware that this was happening. There have been so many, people say conspiracy theories, but there have been so many issues and instances where Israel has been caught red-handed, but we give them an out because they are our greatest ally. But our greatest ally is literally costing us our lives of our soldiers. They are costing our ability to stand tall on the nation stage. They are costing us the ability to still be that person, well, that country in the world that says we are a model country to look after. We're not there anymore. We're getting surpassed by right now China because of this. And when you actually look at what is the best deal for us, would you say that is a good deal? $3 billion for what? What are we getting right now? We're having our people not have. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're saying we're paying $3 billion and they have free healthcare. So
Right.
We're in debt. We go into debt to pay for their healthcare. And just another to piggyback on what you're saying about the spying, is this not a conspiracy theory? Jonathan Pollard was a spy for Israel. He was caught red-handed. He was arrested and he was put in prison. And somehow he got released. I don't know how that happened. So it's not a conspiracy. It's a fact. Israel spies on us. They got caught spying us. They got caught stealing our nuclear secrets and selling them to China or Russia. I'm sorry, selling them to Russia. And there's the whole Epstein thing. We can go down that rabbit hole in the last part. We're going to touch on Israel's integration into our government. So let's table that. Ryan, you want to take that up?
I'd like to just talk about selling weapons in general, and just how I look at it is that every American citizen needs to think of themselves as a stakeholder in the country, right? And with being a stakeholder is different than just a citizen, right? It comes with agency, it comes with ownership, and we're putting these people into power, and they work for us. And so when I think about having ownership in a country, I want to spend my time investing in companies that do great things and that I'm passionate about, and they're good for people and good for society. And being the world's largest arms dealer is for sure not on that list, right? I have no interest in being the world's biggest arms dealer, right? And that is for sure what we are. It's like 43% of all arms that are exported in the world are coming from America, right? We are the arms trade.
But don't you think most people agree with you? And then the question, it begs the question is like, well, why do you think we're still doing it? If most people don't think we should be this big arms dealer, why is our government continuing to be the biggest arms dealer, claiming that the military industrial complex is going to benefit?
I mean, again, so where I would head that answers that question is that, the litmus test for me is going to make Americans safer and more prosperous. This is kind of the argument you were saying that they might make. I know that the data is there, that it makes the contractors richer, right? Mm-hmm. Guaranteed, with Lockheed and Raytheon and Boeing, and they are making money. Like you could see, no matter who's in office, Republican or Democrat, they're, they do very well in terms of return on their investment. So whose fault is the fault the politicians that we know are, again, have the same bosses? Or is it that we're not able to get through to the voters and say, stop the madness? If you want something different, you have to vote differently, right?
Well, just in terms of math, it's such a good deal. I mean, let's take Israel example, but we could take General Dynamics either way. Is they invest a few $1 million to buy politicians, and that same politician will give them $3 billion. So it sounds like a good deal. If I were in the military-industrial complex, I'll throw them a bone. I'll give them a few $1,000,000 if I'm going to get a few $1 billion in contracts out of it. So yeah, I mean, it just takes some clear thinking economically that it just seems like selling weapons is not benefiting the people. It's benefiting an elite class of people.
Yeah, I think the argument that you're going to get even more than the one that you were saying about Israel and the 3 billion. I mean, that's just like our tax dollars going to them for them to then send it back to us. I mean, that just seems like clearly a scam on its face. I think the better one is that there's a lot of Americans that work for those companies, and turning off that spigot will have a big effect on the economy and those American workers. So it's like anything else. If you got to get off that teat, I mean, we did it after World War II, right? We turned a lot of these factories into war factories. They turned into building different things in the country and transitioned workers. That's the way you'd have to do it. You need to do it smart. You need to do it intelligently. But I mean, I have no interest in being spending my vote behind people that will want to build things that will blow people up.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you're saying. It's not just the fact that they're extorting our money. I wish they just did that. I would General Dynamics gave a bunch of money so that they could get a bunch of money back. But for some reason, to justify their actions, they have to kill a bunch of people on top of it. So they build all these bombs, and then they got to drop them on somebody. So if you want to make me a deal saying, look, this is a scam, you're stuck in the scam. Give me the scam where at the end of the day, you just take those bombs and blow them up in a desert. At least you don't get people killed. But that's the scam, is they built, you give them a bunch of money to build these bombs, and you got to find somebody to drop them to justify it all. And that's why we've been in wars basically since World War II. We've been nonstop at war. And, people say, well, now we're theoretically at peace. If we're at peace, and this is going to be the last part of the question, I'll give you two guys, Steve and Shannon, a chance to kick in. But the last question is going to be talking about the money aspect of it. But we talk about the fact that we got this quote peace deal going on. But I also saw the last budget for the military. It's defense. It's 1.1 trillion, which makes it more than last year. And we were in war 2026. So they're already planning. They're already planning for us to be in war. That's why their budget went up. If they thought, we figured it out, we're not going to go to war with Iran, it's under control, they would reduce their budget. But their budget's increasing. So if they're not in a war, they'll find one. So, all right, Steve and Shannon, what do you guys want to pitch in on the U.S. being a weapons pusher around the world?
Sure, I'll start. I mean, we've been a weapons pusher as far as I can remember. I mean, Reagan started our problem with the Taliban, right, by selling weapons to them. We essentially fund our next enemy, and we've been doing it for decades. We shouldn't be sending money to Israel. To me, Israel is a religious war, right? And we're sitting here with our First Amendment, and we're still trying to pick sides. That entire area has been at war for 1,000 years, and all we go in is we poke the bear. There is huge evidence that states that we're the reason we have our own problems, because we go in there, we mess with other people's livelihoods, and then they retaliate. We shouldn't be selling weapons. The government should only be tied to our Constitution. They should only be working on the powers that we give them. All of this other stuff, they're not out there to make a profit because they suck at it. All we are doing is causing our future to be war. That's it.
Yeah, just to correct you, that region hasn't been at war for thousands of years. And specifically, the Palestine-Israeli situation started when England decided, hey, we need to do some mucking up in that region. But before that,
it was the Holy Wars, right? Yeah, I totally.
It's not a holy war.
Hundreds, but.
It's totally not a holy war. It's not Jews against Muslims and Christians. It's the Zionists wanting to take land. It's not has nothing to do with religion. It's people from Europe saying, hey, and the Britain being along with them, saying, hey, there's this nice proper piece of land, let's grab it, because this was back in the colonial days. You could get away with something like that. But religion has no, there's so many, and Steve's on our call. There's so many Jews that are against Israel. So to characterize it as a religious war, to me, it's just buying into their narrative. It's about a land grab. It's about colonialism. It has nothing to do with religion.
I think it can be. I could think it can be more than one thing, and I think Shannon's point that this is a region that is very often, having fighting each other is true. I mean,
because the same you could say about South America is we decided that our military-industrial complex could benefit from a volatile Middle East. So why not throw Israel in there amongst all these countries that don't want them there? I don't think there's anything intrinsic about the Middle East that makes it violent. I think that's kind of a racist thing. I don't think they're violent. I think that all the banana republics that we created in South America were us. They had nothing to do with them not knowing how to govern themselves.
I mean, I wouldn't speak for Shannon, but the way I interpreted what he was saying is that it is not because of the color of their skin that there seems to be more violence in that area, nor is it for any racial reason. It's a religious one, and I think again, if there are religious factions that fight there, right? Is that not?
Well, who's instigating that? Do you
It's
think?
a different argument. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think it's a religious battle. I just disagree with you fundamentally. I think it's the U.S. and the West mucking it up so that they can sell weapons. I think religion has nothing to do with it. I honestly don't. And I grew up there. I'm telling you, I don't think this is a religious battle. I mean, look at Gaza, right? So Gaza, people are saying, and we keep hearing this, is, oh, they hate the Jews. They hate the Jews. There's Jews living in Gaza. I don't know if you know that. Amir Haas, very famous writer, openly Jewish, lived for years in Gaza. No issues. They don't. Has nothing to do with the fact that she's Jewish. That war, and this is the hottest part of that war, is the Gaza conflict. In the middle of that conflict, a Jew who happened to be anti-Zionist lived perfectly peacefully. So peace and war has. I think that's a good counterexample to say that the conflict is not based on the religion of the people. It's based on colonialism. That's what the source of that conflict, not religion.
It's about the control of Jerusalem, right? Isn't it?
No, it's not about Jerusalem.
That's the way I've always assumed it. It was.
It was to do with it. It's about the land. It's about the fact that the British wanted to mess up that region, so they threw in a bunch of colonialists, Zionists that happen to be Jewish. That's not relevant. And said, you go take that land and kick the people out of the land. They kicked 750,000 people, most of the Palestinian population. They kicked them out of that land. And then they come back and say, well, they hate us because they're anti-Semitic. No, they hate you, or like you were saying, religion. It had nothing to do with the fact that they were Jewish. It had the fact that they kicked them off their land. So I think that's a narrative that I'm surprised is still being bought, that they just hate Jews and Jews hate Muslims.
Well, it ain't about the Jews themselves. I'm just talking about the religious conflict.
Yeah,
like
I
it's
think
always
there's Jews on the Palestinian side.
Maud, you keep conflating like answers into your narrative, it seems. You know what I mean? It seems like you ask questions, but then you also already know all the answers and you're sure of the answer, and this is the only right answer. And what he said was, I think there is some fighting in that area, and it's based on, religion. He said religion has nothing to do with any fight ever in the Middle East. And
I'm saying it's not the source. It's not the source of the conflict. Religion is not. It's the U.S.
It's a source, I think, is what he's saying, and I would.
It's not the source. It's an excuse. It's a way to get people to fight each other. But I'm talking too much. I want to give Kalia a chance. Go ahead.
Well, let me just start out by saying shout out to my mom. Her birthday was on Monday, and she is a bishop of many, many churches. So as a bishop and as a person who knows many Jewish people as well, I can generally say this may have something to do with religion to some aspects, depending on what you are taught, just like your religion can be dependent on where you grow up at, like in different countries or things of that nature. And when I was talking about Greater Israel before, that was about land grab. So colonialism is a part of it, but you also have to think that there is a biblical aspect to a lot of this. So you can't ignore that and at the same time say it's colonialism. Because if you ignore the biblical aspect, you ignore why a lot of people are wanting this to happen. And it just takes it into a whole nother argument, which I don't think we want to have tonight. But it is there. We start with both of these are Abrahamic religions. And with both of them being Abrahamic religions, they are going to have some similarities, but they are going to have some differences as well. It's just that is being Jewish, Christian, Muslim, they're all going to have something together. And like I believe Stephen was saying before, it isn't about violence, it's about peace. So that's where the other part comes in at, where it's not about the religious aspect. It gets into the moral character of people to say, okay, this is what's going on, because we do know that Palestine was not the original place that they had thought of to go. So when we're talking about these things, if we don't include that, yes, this did happen, and yes, this did happen, because two things can be wrong and right at the same time. And this is that instance where you do have a religious element to it. And it's not just the Jewish religious element. You have the Christian nationalist religious element that people don't talk about a lot. So there are different aspects of this that have to be taken into account. But at the end of the day, lives are lost. And that's why it's bad. Because I don't think anybody here is advocating for lives being lost for any reason. But what we're advocating for is no wars. We're advocating for peace. We're advocating for understanding. We're advocating for education for our own people that's paid by our own tax dollars, instead of being sent to another country so that they can have it. Housing vouchers. I was like, come on, are you kidding me? They get trips to go visit Israel right out of college to see what houses they want to have, and now they're taking up areas in the West Bank. It's like, you really do have to wrap your head around everything that's going on, but you also have to understand, and I tell this to people all the time, if you're going to talk about Semitic people, you cannot say that Palestinians aren't Semitic, Sudanese people aren't Semitic, they speak Semitic languages. So anti-Semitic, it's not just related to Israel. It really isn't. So having that definition, I would say, is anti-Semitic itself. Trying to just say that only Israel gets to have the label of somebody saying something against them and it's anti-Semitic. It's really not. So again, just to get back to the point, yes, it is about religion, but it's also about colonialism, and all of that plays a factor in it. Just depends on what side of the bed you woke up on that morning sometimes.
Right, Steve, I want to get to you because I know you have an interesting background in this particular subject. But Ryan, I just want to make a comment about me being like stubborn in my position. I think, and from my perspective, I think you said something, or Shannon said something that was historically incorrect. So I was trying to correct it. The fact is that region has not been in violence for 1,000 years. It's really pretty much since the creation of Israel that there was that violence. Before that, the Jews and the Muslims and Christians lived very peacefully together. So that's the argument I would make for it not being a religious thing, because the religions had lived together peacefully, completely peacefully. In fact, the Jews in Europe fled in 1492. They fled to the Muslim countries when there was the Inquisition. And a lot of the Jews, there were pogroms and stuff against the Jews. They fled to Arab and Muslim countries in the Ottoman Empire. But anyway, so Ryan, that's my, and I'll let you respond to that.
Yeah,
but I was trying to correct
very
what I
quick,
thought.
so we can get to Stephen. My issue, stubborn. You can be as stubborn as you want. I just think, like, from the moderator POV, you'll put it out to let everyone else.
I'm of the Pierce Morgan school of moderation, which is, as long as you agree with me, you can say whatever you want. But I got my own opinions.
And as far as me, I just would give a little background. So, like, I was raised Christian. My last name is Lebanese, right? So my last name was adopted by a Lebanese family. So I have tons of family in Lebanon that are Druze, which is a Muslim sect. My ex-wife and my daughter, the aforementioned daughter that I'd go to war with, identify as Jewish, right? And are feel ties to Israel. So what I know about all of them is that they all love their families, they all love their dogs, they all want good things to happen. But I also know propaganda works in many, many ways, and there is colonialism that comes in, and they have their propaganda. I believe there's religious propaganda, and this starts fight and starts these issues. And I guess I was just it felt as though what Shannon was saying was, I think 1,000 years, right? He was embellishing a little bit. The point is, as far as we know, in our lifetime of growing up, there's a lot of wars that often seem to be religious based in there, Jerusalem, the sort of things. I didn't think it was that.
Well,
Worth
coincidentally,
discussing that point of view is all.
coincidentally, it all started with the creation of Israel. That's just a
It
coincidence.
started in 1025.
Well, the Crusades definitely didn't help. If you're making a point about the Crusades, yes,
That was my original. Yeah, the Crusades were my. That's why I thought it was all religion, because it's always started with the Crusades over that territory, and I just thought it continued.
Okay. We could do a really good debate on that one subject, but that's not what we're here for. So, Steve, you spent time in that region. Can you fill us in on what your taking is on that?
Yeah, I have a much more optimistic view of the world. And please understand, I come from a very religious, Orthodox Jewish upbringing. And that colors my perspective. Having a lot of family in Israel, having had, my ancestors in Europe slaughtered in the Holocaust. That colors my way of viewing the world. And it's taught me to stand against all injustice, including when I see Palestinians being mistreated. When I was in Iran, I got to go to the synagogue in Iran. They weren't killing their own Jews there. I asked the guys at the synagogue, are things hard here? And they said yes. And I asked, is it because of religious persecution? They were like, what are you talking about? It's because of the American sanctions on our economy.
But do you know the U.S. or Israel, one or the other, bombed the synagogue in Iran? Are you aware of that?
I'm aware that it got bombed. I don't know whether it was done on purpose or not.
Okay.
I thought the Iranians were the nicest people on the planet until I actually spent time in the West Bank, in the homes of Christian and Muslim Palestinian families. I've never seen so many Jesuses in one house as in the home of a Christian Palestinian family. I mean, holographic Jesus was looking at me as I walked in. Just the most hospitable, warm people. And it fits with my greater understanding of people in other groups. I'm in dermatology. They tell me plastic surgeons only care about the money, but when I go talk to the plastic surgeons, it's clear they're devoted to making sure people get the best possible medical care and outcomes. People in my group, doctors, would tell me the insurers only care about the money, but when I went to insurers, they were like, you could sense that they felt like we help people get access to medical care, and we wouldn't have a problem if it weren't for the greedy doctors. I talked to the people at the drug companies. They devote themselves to putting in the risks and the resources to actually develop the drugs that makes people's lives better. Everywhere I went, whenever somebody told me something bad about folks in another group, I talked to those people, and they're really well-meaning. Now, I know financial incentives affect our thinking, okay, but I believe even in this group, people are telling me bad stuff about the military-industrial complex. I'm pretty sure that the people who sell those weapons think that they're doing it so people can defend themselves. I honestly believe that that's what's happening. And so I have a more optimistic view of this whole world than anybody else you're going to meet. When I investigated Israel and Palestine, when one of my relatives there took us on a trip, we went all over the country, and I was like, gosh, I've seen, farms and factories and forests that I helped build with the trees I helped plant when I was a kid with collecting dimes back in Hebrew school. Where were Palestinians living? The ones who became refugees. Nobody ever showed me that. And you look into it, and it turned out there were Jewish terrorist organizations. Let's call them Zionists, because they're not representative of Jews necessarily. Call them Zionist terrorist organizations. And the proto-Israeli army before Israel formed, that expelled entire villages of peaceful families from their homes and mined the debris so people couldn't return. Nobody told us that in Hebrew school. At Passover, we would pray next year in Jerusalem. They didn't teach us to pray next year in Jerusalem by making peaceful non-Jewish families refugees from their homes. And Maude, you're right. Palestinian Jews, Palestinian Christians, and Palestinian Muslims were all living together just fine in Palestine before Europeans came in and tried to create a country for themselves in a land where another people were the majority. And you could understand why they thought they needed to do it, the way they were suffering from pogroms, but they were going about it wrong.
Yeah, the question is, does the ends justify the means? And I think it's all about the means. It's like
I wouldn't even say that, because I think it's I think we can think about what's practical. I don't think we're going to get peace for Jews by mistreating non-Jewish families in Palestine. I think if Netanyahu says, we made a big mistake, Palestinians, to Hamas, come back, let's live together. We'll all this money we're spending on bombs and checkpoints, let's use it to rebuild your villages. Let's live together in peace. We'll have a tourist economy like the world has never seen before. We're going to need more airports. We're going to need more tour guides. There's going to be 1 billion, not to mention the Christians and the Muslims, there's going to be 1 billion Chinese wanting to visit a peaceful Holy Land. We get what we want, peace for our children, and a fiscally responsible nation, not in debt, through peaceful means, not by killing people.
So yeah, there's two things I want to ask you about. So one is, do you think one of the core problems is the dehumanization of the enemy on either side or on one particular side? And if you can also answer, do you think the solution to that, to get to where you want to go, would be or a single state with equal rights for everyone?
It's a fundamental principle of dehumanization. So, people in my specialty will dehumanize the plastic surgeons, or physicians in general will dehumanize the insurers, or Republicans and Democrats will dehumanize each other. It's something you see uniformly across these groups. And certainly, we see that in how Arabs and Muslims and Palestinians are portrayed. And I don't think anybody's doing it mean-spiritedly. I think they really believe based on what they see, because look, if 1.5 billion Muslims on the planet all go to peace, I'll go to the mosque and pray for peace on Friday, would that make the news? No, you're not going to hear about that, because that's normal and every day. If one of them plants a bomb somewhere, that makes the cover of the newspaper. So every time you see the word Muslim on the cover of a newspaper, the next word is terrorist. It's just, and it's not because the news is trying to make them look bad. It's just, that's what's new and different, so that's what gets published. But people get a really warped perspective of the world that way. And Maude, you asked me a 2-part question. At my age, I can't handle 2 parts. What was the second part?
Do you want to throw in, and you don't have to.
One state solution. Yeah. I think, I honestly believe, one state where, I don't think we need separate states for whites and blacks in the U.S. South. I don't think any of us would have supported keeping blacks in Bantustans in South Africa. I don't think it's a practical solution for safety for Jews by saying, we're going to have 2 states. We're never going to let Palestinian families return to their homes. 2 states, it's just not. But on the other hand, if you had 1 state for the religious Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and a second state for the secular Jews, Christians, and Muslims, okay, I could see why that would have less conflict than 1 state for everybody.
All right. So the last question was going to be about the economic aspect of all this. Is, can we afford all of this? And the NDAA 1.1. NDAA is the National Defense Authorization Act, which is proposed to give $1.1 trillion to the defense industry. So, and we'll close on this. The last question was going to be about Israel, but we've kind of beaten that one to death. So let's close on this. If you had your choice, if you were in Congress, for a lot of us who are running, what would you propose? Would you propose cutting the $1.1 trillion budget? And if so, what would you do with it? Anybody want to go for that?
I'm happy to jump in on that, because that's easy for me. Yeah, cut the budget and then don't collect it from the people. Give it back.
So it's 1.1 trillion is probably a lot of that's going towards our military bases. We have bases in 80 countries around the world. Would you save a bunch of money, just shut them down?
Clinton did. Balanced the budget. I didn't like it. I was in service at the time, but it positioned us well, right? It didn't harm us like I thought it was going to do. He balanced the budget, and he was the last president that did it.
All right, so we have a military guy that says he supports closing the bases around the world because it's in the better good for the people. Anybody else want to touch on the economic aspect of war?
I'm happy to. I assume we all are. You know, I think 90% of the budget is defense, Social Security, health programs, and interest on the debt. Right. So those are the things you're going to have to work on. I mean, it has to be. I think in healthcare we need more personal responsibility. The current system is a nightmare. And price, I believe, if there's personal stake in the game and market forces, prices would come down dramatically. I think Social Security needs to be addressed as well. I mean, wealthy people like good dermatologists like me, you know, are paying in a limited amount and taking out a lot of money. We want to protect people who need the money. We don't need Social Security for folks like me. And then the military budget, we're spending as much money as I believe the next 9 countries combined, Russia, China, and England, Israel, all of them combined. We're spending more than them. We need to secure our borders, and that's the role of our military. If we want to influence the rest of the world, we should be doing it by being a good role model.
Yeah, I think that's the point, is that we need this big military so we can dictate to others to do what we want. So we want to project what we want into reality. And because we're in debt, we're 30 trillion or 40 trillion in debt. We don't have the choice to force people to do what we want. We just have to accept that some people are going to do things we don't like. That's just life. When you can't afford to force people to do things. Kalia, did you want something? We'll end with you, Ryan. Kalia, go ahead.
Well, I think we really have the opportunity to reimagine what our country can look like when we take that $1.5 trillion and put it back into the people. And I'm listening to what Stephen's saying about Social Security, and I'm thinking about disabled families who don't have a marriage equality under Social Security right now, because if they're married and their spouse makes a certain amount of money, they don't qualify for Social Security, even though that can be detrimental to their health. So I think about things like that need to be taken up. And it can be if we're not in these types of situations. I think about food deserts. I think about so many things that can be done with our tax dollars. More funding for more at 4 programs for kindergarten and things of that nature. So healthcare, education, just putting back into our community. More agriculture, because as you can see, when the Strait of Hormuz closed, what happened to a lot of our pricing? They went up, and a lot of that was in agriculture. And we have to be able to sustain ourselves and not be products of imports. We have to be able to do something about what's right here in the U.S. And if we don't, we are going to be a failure in the long run. Regardless if we're exporting weapons all the time, it's not going to matter if we don't have food to feed the people who are making the weapons, who are doing the things here, who are the politicians, like some of you that are running. It's not going to matter when we cannot do the basic things. So we have to become a self-sustaining society again, where we can truly say, we have the money to pay for the lawyers that are going to be needed for litigation. We have the money to pay for the doctors that are going to be needed to keep people healthy. And we have the money for the people in general to keep the teachers paid so they don't go on strike, so our children are not staying home and not getting educated, to be able to have internet in every household. Until you can say that, we cannot talk about this country needing bases in any other country, because if they can't defend themselves, It's not our job to do it. It literally is not. They have a right to be able to defend themselves. And we have to call our people home. We are not a buffer. We are not a stopgap. We are not cannon fodder when we send our troops over to places that we know they can lose their lives at because we just want to see what's going to happen in that area. We need to bring our troops home. We need to do better with the money that we have spent out. And we need to actually take care of the people who are paying the taxes here and the people who can't pay taxes, because a lot of people don't realize that when we say only tax paying people, we are leaving out a whole block of people who still do need to be represented. So I'll leave it at that and send it on to the next person.
Hi, Ryan.
Yeah, as it relates to the budget and the $1 trillion, that's my damn money, right? And that's Miss Fitzgerald's money, that's Shannon's money, that's Steve's money, and that's our money, right? So we are just return to that paradigm. We are the stakeholders of the most prosperous country in the history of the planet. And the people that we hire, that we put in positions of power, their job is to raise the average well-being of all the people in the country. That's what they're supposed to be doing. So before I spend a dime on anything about military bases over here, I want to know, are the veterans, being taken care of? Are children eating healthy food? Are we getting educated? Can people buy homes anymore? Is the American dream going to be exist anymore for anybody? And are we just screwing the next generation completely and piling them up in such a mess that they're never going to be able to recover? So I think we just need to take accountability, and I don't want to spend a dollar anywhere else until we fix the problems that we have here.
Yeah, I mean, we what's interesting about this panel is we have a pretty solid consensus on that last question, is got to cut that military budget. And we range from libertarian to green, but we're inconsistent with what all the people think. So how come our government isn't responsive to the people? And it's about the military industrial complex. Yeah, it's the money. So this is what I would like to see happen in the future, is that for us to take out the oligarchy, we got to stick together. Those of us who don't want to spend our tax money, and those who don't pay taxes, who are part of our brothers and sisters nonetheless, we need to stick together and recognize the enemy is not the Green Party, the enemy is not the Libertarian Party, the enemy is the oligarchs, the billionaire class. And so that's what I really love about this panel is, yeah, we had some debates. Shannon and I will get into some history debates about the Crusades, maybe in the next panel. But I love you guys, and I really hope that this is a springboard for the people who aren't part of the oligarchy to recognize who the enemy is, and we need to stick together because we got the same priorities. And thank you all for joining. I've enjoyed this panel. I hope you guys have too. And